Welcome, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, to Talkback, brought to you by Bitterroot Motors, doing it right for more than 42 years. Office Solutions and Services, locally owned with solutions for every office, the Mustard Seed Restaurant, and Automotive Cutting Edge, where Joe Featherly and the mechanics specialize in all makes and models for vehicle repair and maintenance. At 1510 Bulwer, call 542-2218. It's Monday, the best day of the week. Hey, John.
Hey, Peter.
What's up, man?
I'm good. I'm pretty sure you don't have consensus vote on Monday being the best day of the week, but whatever.
Actually, the weekend was pretty good for me because I had lots of regimented stuff to do.
Yeah, you were at the Home and Garden show,
Home and Garden show for 5 hours, both Saturday and Sunday. Had a great time. Saw some great friends. Haven't seen in a long time, and it's a good chance to catch up, find out all the new stuff that's going on. Congratulations to Rich Sargent. And he and his group up on the upper level. Those of you who are familiar with the Adams Center, the field house, they have most of their displays down on the ground floor. But then on the upper level, what several businesses had done is they set up what looked like just a real home with a kitchen and bedroom and various indoor and outdoor things there. And they combined, they won the Best of Show award for the deal. So. Congratulations to all those folks at the Missoula Home and Garden Show. And again, a big thank you to Jim Meyer from Creative Marketing, because most home and garden shows of that size charge, $4 or $5 to get in. But they don't. They haven't done it for years. What they do is they ask people to bring some non-perishable food items, and then they box them up and take them to the local area children's homes. And every year there's tons and tons of food that people bring in. They have 4,000 to 5,000 visitors. Each person brings 5-10 pounds of food, and pretty cool. So again, congratulations to Jim, and thank you for his generosity.
I had a hugely productive weekend as well.
What did you do, John?
I watched 2 movies.
Wow.
I watched Birdman and I watched Whiplash.
Wow.
We were going through the Academy Award winners, and man, Whiplash was a good movie.
Was it really?
Yeah. Okay, there's some cursing in it.
Darn.
But other than that, I mean, it's not something you'd watch with your kids.
No.
And it's not one of those movies you go into watching for a good time. You are not going to make out after watching this movie, okay? So don't get any thoughts in your brain, Peter.
I never even entered into my head, John. So.
But anyway, the movie is, it's kind of disturbing in that it takes you, gives you a different approach to education and teaching.
Yeah, I'll bet.
And I went into this movie thinking it was going to be one of those kind of coach shows.
Right, yeah.
Like, oh man, the coach is kind of a hard arse, but he got the team together and they pulled through and they performed.
No.
But no, this guy is just a real bad guy.
He's a
really mean guy, but he does it with a purpose.
Right.
To drive this kid to perform and be better than most humans can possibly be at their activity. In this case, it's drumming, which I thought you would probably like.
I should have seen it a long time ago because I keep forgetting that it's all about playing the drums. So,
well, I see all these interviews that you did with J.K. Simmons, and I've seen him in other things, and you see him as like this really nice, friendly guy.
He's a sweet, nice guy.
He is not a sweet, nice guy. In this movie, it's almost diabolically bad, but it's a great show. Yeah, you should definitely check it out. Birdman, on the other hand,
I'll bring my drumstick. So
watched Birdman as well. It's beautifully put together. It also has kind of a jazzy theme to it. There's hints and references to some Carver works if you're into literature at all. But at the end, I was just like, I don't know. I just didn't get the feel. I didn't get the point, I guess, as well as I got the point of Whiplash, as far as bringing a theme through to the end. So I would have given Whiplash Picture of the Year over Birdman myself.
Right. Well, was what's his name? Who's the guy that won the Oscar? The star of Birdman. I can never remember his name.
Oh, that would be Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. Was he chewing gum the whole time of the movie? Because he was chewing gum all during the Oscars, for crying out. The guy must have had like every double bubble stick of gum in the world shoved in his mouth during the whole thing during the Oscars.
I couldn't tell you. All of that gum chewing probably dried his mouth out, and he's probably thirsty. And what better to pick up than a bottle of water bottled here in Missoula?
What a clever segue.
Yeah. So local media has been freaking out for the last 4 days over
Right.
this idea that we might perchance bottle water and sell it.
No.
I would love to hear. Okay, first of all, when I first read the title, and I had listened to some of the trial, I just missed the morning part, which is where this soundbite came from.
Right.
And so I didn't catch it live. I had to go back and listen to it. But when I first read the title that they're considering bottling water, I'm like, yes, more jobs, and we're going to make some money off of something we have surplus of here in Missoula. Nobody else is taking it the way John took it.
Oh, no. Not when you got the Clark Fork Coalition.
This is apparently an apocalyptic level.
Yes, this is. How dare you?
Now, if you actually
take one of our precious natural resources and put it in a bottle. What's the matter with you? Oh, that's terrible.
We need to make a law that all trees cut down in the state of Montana go back into our timber and house building industry here, even though we don't need them.
But not only that, but the only trees that should be harvested are the ones that fall over naturally. I mean, we can't go in there with chainsaws because they're loud.
Suicidal
birds. Trees. Yeah, trees trees that are deeply troubled and end up falling over.
Just
themselves.
cut me down.
Just begging the wind, blow me over. Please, I can't take it anymore.
Anyway, so that's
because
my
I'm
natural.
not an ent. Okay, so yeah.
That was a Lord of the Rings reference for all you kids out there. So I would really like, and I was hoping that I might be able to get a caller out there that is against the bottling of Missoula water for sale.
Well, I'm sure there are plenty.
I'm sure there are.
Because the media was just up in arms. It's the most terrible thing you could possibly imagine.
To kind of give me the case for it. I can see having some responsible laws. I mean, we don't want to drain our water or
of course not.
Ship everything out or not give ourselves access. But, I mean, if you have so much water.
Yeah, trust me, we are sitting on top of one of the largest aquifers in the country, okay? We are not going to run out of water. I promise. We're not. So what's wrong with, you've got a company that thinks, wow, this is an amazing resource. We could bottle it. We could sell it. We could, like you said, we could have a facility right here in Missoula to put the bottles together and package them and ship them out and do all that stuff, create some new jobs. That would be a good thing.
One of the things, well, the companies, that's the funnier thing.
Yeah.
So the company that wants to buy it, Park Water, they've already agreed to not bottle the water.
Yeah.
So it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of a non-issue.
It's a non sequitur, as they say, a non-starter.
Yeah, I don't think but that was the highlight of the day for apparently most of the media.
Well, shall we play these?
Sure, go ahead and play the clip. It all came through apparently from a coffee house meeting between the head of the Clark Fork Coalition, whose name I can't remember right now, and Karen
Knutson.
And John Kappas, the president of Mountain Water Company.
Okay.
And this is how she related on the stand.
So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to be shocked, deeply shocked.
Mr. Kappas informed me that Carlisle would be willing to transfer the reassurances, the resource stipulations in the 2011 letter agreement, with the exception of the clause that would prevent bottling.
Did he give you any indication whether that was a possible development that had been discussed among Carlisle or Mountain Water?
Yes, he said it was under discussion.
Okay, and so now there's another cut here. Let's listen to this one. Let's try this.
I was taken aback. I did not expect to have this put in front of me, given the fact that we had been having conversations about water stewardship for 2 or almost 3 years. And bottling was a huge concern of the Clark Fork Coalitions, and we had been on record expressing that concern in 2011, so I was rather startled that would be excluded from the reassurances.
Okay, so we're going to take a break. We'll come back. Matt and Candy are both waiting on the phone to talk about this. Good idea, bad idea? To be honest with you, John, I never even thought of it.
I thought of it because I'm pretty sure the Coca-Cola plant in town bottles water from Missoula.
We'll be right
already.
Back. We'll be right back. Hey, it's Talk Back, and it's Monday, and I had an idea, John. Just imagining, let's say the city wins, and they end up owning the water company. Maybe 5-10 years down the line, a brilliant entrepreneur says, you know what? Now that Missoula owns its own water company, here is a way for Missoula to make some extra money. Rather than taxing the citizens more or raising the rates, why don't we just capture the water that is that leaks out of the system and bottle it and then sell it? And then that way we could bring the money in, and we won't have to raise taxes or rates on the people that live here. That's a great idea. We could call it escapee water or water on the lam or something. I don't know. What do you think?
I like it. Fugitive water. I think I'd buy fugitive water.
And now you had just mentioned, hold on a second. Aren't we already doing that? Isn't...
Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone that knows a little bit better than me about I was under the assumption that the plant in town bottled water. The Coca-Cola facility.
Right, because they're not bottling Coke anymore. That's done elsewhere now.
Right. So if I'm right or wrong, give me a heads up. So I think that they pay Mountain Water for access, and then
I don't know. Let's get Matt on the line. Good morning, Matt. What's up?
Well, I have said for the longest time that anybody that buys water in Missoula is a half-wit. The water that comes out of the tap is some of the purest, most ancient water. It's antediluvian. It's from before the last ice age.
All right.
I mean, talk about a selling point. And by the way, you know that stuff like Evian and Perrier
Right.
comes from the Paris Municipal Water Plant. It does.
Oui.
They just filter
we
it.
both ends too.
And so there you go. And by the way, Evian is 90 spelled backwards.
Oh, got it. Thanks, Matt. Well put. All right, Candy, you're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Some of the things that people come up with, I love it.
Yep.
Good morning. Good Monday morning.
Good morning.
Am I to presume that this Karen Knutson has documentation of the conversation between her and John Kappas? Because if she doesn't, then that's a hearsay testimony. And I'd be more afraid of the CSKT water compact leaving the Indians room for selling water than I would worry about Missoula.
Well, it'd be interesting to note we are going to have Ken Miller on the phone at 9 o'clock this morning. He wrote a rather scathing editorial about the compact in the Great Falls Tribune, so we're going to be visiting with him.
Well, I think that there is a provision of them being able to do what they want with the water, so they could sell it quicker than we could.
Possibly so. Hey, thanks.
Thanks, bye.
Candy. And that means it's time for Bruce. Good morning, Bruce.
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen.
What's up?
Well, I just got off the phone with Culligan Water.
Yeah.
They sell bottled water.
Oh.
And it's local water. Is there some, like, Shakespearean epic irony going on here, maybe, or something?
Dun, dun, dun. But see, the thing is that Culligan and Coca-Cola and whoever else is not Carlisle. Right? the evil empire.
Oh, yes. Well, Dasani water is just Coke water filtered like 32 times. And tap water.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it?
All right. Well, there you go. Thanks, Bruce.
All right, you guys have a good one.
Appreciate the call. So maybe this is all much ado about nothing. Maybe,
oh, yes, that's definitely.
Yeah, well,
sadly, we're paying for all this nothing to happen.
Yeah, I know. 721-1290. And still, I need to write on my forehead so I can look at it in the mirror.
Right backwards.
Peter, figure out how much money is being spent on attorneys every day at the Mountain Water condemnation trial.
You won't find that out.
Well, sure. I can estimate.
I guess you can ask what Mountain Water is paying for their attorneys.
Well, let's just estimate. Let's be on the conservative side. Let's say each lawyer is only making $100 an hour. Okay, which when you're when you're a highly trained and highly educated corporate attorney, you would make at least $100 an hour, at least. I mean, that's what a master plumber gets, for crying out loud. So, and let's say there are 4 or 5 attorneys on each side, each wrangling and doing the best they can on each side. So that would be $500 per hour times 2 per day. That's $2,000 a day.
There's more than just 2, though, right?
Well, yeah, but I'm saying 4 or 5 of them. So that there would be about, you messed up my computations. But anyway.
The human calculator needs a solar recharge.
It's like my mind is a sieve. All right, Pete. Good morning. You're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Good morning. Two comments. One on the water.
Yes, sir.
And one on healthcare.
All right.
The first is on the water. I often feel sorry for Judge Townsend and wonder if she's not insulted by all these distractions they try to throw in front of her that's not substantive or relevant to the actual condemnation and the operation. It's just like a bunch of decoys.
It does feel like spaghetti at the wall, doesn't it?
She's a pretty smart lady, though.
Yeah, I know. And then the second one on healthcare, if you remember, a lot of our congressional delegation, when they were running for office, and even those who were in office, often said they didn't think they should be excluded from the healthcare act, and that they ought to be under the same terms as everybody else.
Right.
But it hasn't come up since the election. It just went quiet.
Well, do you know who has done that, though?
No.
Ted Cruz.
Oh, yeah.
He voluntarily put his family on the Obamacare plan without any subsidies, so that he would be paying the maximum amount of what his constituents would be paying under Obamacare.
Okay.
Now,
I hope they introduce legislation saying they all ought to fall under the same
Well,
cap.
I for one applaud him for that. Way to go, because he can obviously afford it.
Well, the Senate Democrats fought back against that bill that you're talking about, mostly because it would force their staff to have to suffer like the rest of us.
Right.
And you know, I really understand, like Huma Abedin, who's under criticism for working with Hillary Clinton.
Sure.
Part-time for under Hillary for about $75 an hour, maximum of $150,000 a year.
Yeah.
Part-time work,
right.
By the way.
That's Mr. Wiener's wife.
That's Mr. Wiener's wife, who was simultaneously working for a political campaign and the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah.
All at the same time.
There are no conflicts of interest there whatsoever.
Not at all.
All right. Hey, we got to run, Pete. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. We'll come right back. Wow, we're having a good time this morning. All three lines open for open phones for the next 9 minutes. Then it's Ken Miller right after 9. Our News Talk time now is 8:54. We're about 2.5 minutes before we take our hard break. Then, of course, we'll get to the top of the hour and have Ken Miller on at about 9:03.
That's right. We got a caller called in, wanted to remind everybody that all these breweries are using water.
Oh.
Now, although they do an amazing, transmorphosis of water into a substance people actually want to drink, beer, it's still water to begin with. It's mostly water. But water's great. Water's great.
Well, I wonder how many other products that are manufactured in Missoula use water from the municipal system and end up selling they may not be actually selling the water itself, but they use the water to make whatever it is they have to do.
I think the big deal here for most people is the bottling. Most water is put into plastic bottles. Plastic comes from oil.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the worst possible substance.
And speaking of which, my wife and I'm not going to name it. We joined a health club, okay? And
it's called John's Boot Camp.
Well, yeah, I was looking for a paper cup because I didn't have a water bottle, right? So I was looking for a paper cup so that I could get a drink, right? Because I was really thirsty. I'd been working hard. And I said, I went to, they have the snack bar. I said, hey, can I just borrow a paper cup? Oh, so we don't do that. I said, what do you mean you don't do that? I'm dying here. Where's it? Well, the closest water fountain's upstairs, down the hall or whatever. So there's a paper cup sitting right. Can I just? Oh, we don't do that. You have to bring your own personal water bottle, and then we'll be happy to fill it for you. But we don't like to use the paper cups because it's recycling and it's paper and we don't do that. and I
went, like, paper's recyclable.
And I went, whatever happened to the customer's always right? For crying out loud, I just wanted to. And so I almost dipped my hand under the water fountain without a cup, because which is the most natural way to do it. But I didn't. Right. So
you didn't. I think you're supposed to put your mouth over the receiver.
Sure, they would have loved that.
They're like,
well, you wouldn't give me a cup. Anyway, so we're going to take a little break now. We've wasted enough time to get up to the hard break here, so we will take a break. We'll talk with Ken Miller at 9:03 and his views of the CSKT water company. All right, we are back here on Talk. Kathy, come on back here for a second.
oh, she's. Oh, there she is.
Come on back. Grab that microphone for a second. We have a guest on the phone, but Kathy Traver just came in. Your lovely daughter, Janelle, made it to the finals, right?
Yep, she's in the final round.
Now, we talked to you before about the greeting card last week, and we put it up on our website, the Facebook page and everything. And so what became of that interview?
Right now, that interview produced a lot of votes, and she is currently holding 7th place.
Wow.
Nice.
So we need to hold 7th place or move up over the next 3 days. It ends Wednesday at 10 p.m.
Wow. So
Very
we need
cool.
we need to get we can vote once a day every day.
Once a day, every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week.
Perfect.
And if you're from Chicago, you get to vote twice.
Yeah. If you find a lot of dead people, they'll help you out. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
And thank you for the goodies, by the way. They were
You're
wonderful.
welcome.
All right. There you go. So that's what's happened. Just a little update on what's happening with Janelle Traver. And by the way, for all you folks who voted for her greeting card online, thank you. Keep it up. Remember, as Kathy just said, you can vote once a day through Wednesday. They need to keep that 7th place or higher. So, and it's right there on our website if you want to.
And on the line, we have former state legislator, also former Republican gubernatorial candidate here in the state of Montana, Ken Miller, who recently wrote a greeting card to the CSKT Water Compact. It's something that pulled. I saw it, I think, on the Great Falls Tribune, also the Interlake. Anyway, the piece is called Tribal Water Compact, Eerily Similar to Electrical Deregulation.
Wow.
And so I invited him to come on and kind of make that case for us today. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Hey, John and Peter, it's good to be on with you this morning.
So give us the comparison that you lay out in your piece. By the way, if you want to read his piece, I've linked to it in the Talkback blog for this morning on our Facebook page. But if you could just kind of crystallize your case here for us, Ken.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic. I had written a little bit about it, and so I was open about being in opposition to it, and someone else had called me and said, Ken, you were involved with the deregulation back in the 90s. You were in the legislature and stuff, and we're kind of seeing some comparisons to that. And my knee-jerk reaction was, no, this is totally different. And then I sat down and started comparing, and it almost got eerie as to the close comparisons. In other words, particularly the people involved. And, of course, Mark Roscoe was governor then, pushing it heavily. He's now lobbying for it as a lobbyist from D.C. The federal government, back in the 90s, the federal government's like, you got to do this, you're going to get left behind. And so that was a lot of the push behind it. Now they're behind the water compact, and of course they, through this compact, get control of the water. The water moves to them on most of western Montana, off the reservation, on the reservation and off the reservation, in trust, quote, of the federal government. Like I said, I don't trust the federal government, so why are we giving up what's in our state constitution, of which the state owns the water, and why are we giving up that control? And then the list goes on. I mean, the millions of dollars is just incredible, the amount of money that was spent then. And, of course, after the fact, we found out it came from Enron Power and other interests. And, of course, Enron went broke and a lot of scandal there. This time, Bonneville is likely to make out well because of the power generation of the water in that area. The list just goes on and on. Environmental impacts of the deregulation was basically ignored, and under this one they've tried to put in the same environmental regulation, tried to amend the bill on the Senate side to include that. They've tried to make amendments on financial oversight so that we know how the $55 million is going to be spent. And of course, like I've said, and I said in that editorial, this thing is so big, there's no way. The legislature just got it after they convened, and we got 1,500 pages of water compact, and we got 140 pages of Senate Bill 262. And for the entire legislature to get a handle on what's going to happen long term, there's no way. There needs to be more time analyzing it.
Okay, now, Ken, is this another deal, another Nancy Pelosi-esque deal where we have to pass it before we find out what's in it?
That's exactly right, Peter. That's exactly what it is. We're going to have to let it play out. It goes into control of a board. I made that comparison as well. Senate Bill 390 in 1995, the deregulation bill, actually had some good language in it. It said all these different things had to take place before the public service could, start any breakup or go into deregulation mode. Well, they didn't wait for all of those things, and that's really where the downfall of deregulation came about. And here we're turning it over to a board as well to actually determine what's going to happen after you pass the bill.
Well, we do have a caller on the line here.
Let's. I tell you what, I want to give Dave plenty of time to make his point because we'll have to interrupt him. So, Ken, if you'll hang on just a minute, we're up against a commercial break. So, Dave, please stand by. We have one line open, 721-1290. Agree or disagree with Ken Miller? He's got a pretty scathing editorial here about the CSKT Water Compact. You should go online to our website or to our Facebook page and read it, and we will be right back. It's Talk Back, and it's Monday, March the 30th. Thanks for joining a spectacular-looking day here in western Montana. Our guest on the phone, Ken Miller from Laurel, who's a local, I guess, a statewide entrepreneur, former legislator, former gubernatorial candidate. And let's get to the phone and say good morning to Dave. Dave, you're on with Ken. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, good morning. 2 items. Number 1, why didn't the Missoulian print your letter? Number 2, is this a land grab?
All right. So, Ken, did you hear those questions?
I did. Great questions. And as far as the Missoulian, I'm still giving them hope. They did contact me and say that they were going to print it and verify that I had written it. Now, the Billings Gazette, they first said that they were going to print it and then wrote back and said, no, we're only going to let you put in a letter to the editor. And so I wrote back and said, wait a minute, this issue is too big. Just because you guys have taken a position of supporting it, you should allow an opposition editorial be printed. So I'm hoping they'll change their minds. And the same with the Missoulian. I hope the Missoulian continues as they promised and actually print it.
Can't hear him.
Well, he was saying that he had heard from the Missoulian and hoping that they will print it. He said the Billings Gazette said no, and that they would offer him to write a letter to the editor, but he said no, it requires much more than that. So
land grab.
Is it a land grab? I'm going to let you go and let you listen online. So go ahead, Ken.
Absolutely, it's a land grab, and the reason I say that for a number of reasons. One, when you control the water, you control the land. And with them going off reservation and putting it into the trust of the federal government, this is unprecedented. None of the other water compacts with reservations have that kind of language in there. And the other thing is that I think it's real dangerous is that they're allocating this water, this ownership of water, based on a treaty, the Hellgate Treaty, which says the Indians would be able to fish in common the waters in this large area of basically half of the territory of Montana at that time. But it also went on and said they could graze their livestock, they could pick berries, they could do all these different things that require land. Well, if you're going to allow them to have all the water based on fishing in common with all of us, then you would also have to say, well, then therefore they have the land. And so, again, it's just a dangerous road to be going down.
Now, one of the things that's brought up every time we've talked to a supporter of the compact, one of the big issues that comes up is that if we don't go along with the compact, lawsuits are going to be filed all across Montana. They're going to cost landowners lots and lots of money in legal fees, some of which they could lose, and have even less rights to their water than they would with the compact. You start off in your piece, I think in the first paragraph, kind of denouncing this, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to flesh that out a little bit more. Why are the lawsuits not really that much of a threat?
Well, and I think the threats exist both ways, because if it does pass, you're going to see tons of lawsuits filed because of the inequality of how this compact was handled in comparison to the other compacts. So I think you're going to see them be opened up. There's going to be people in the western part of the state that's going to start filing lawsuits to protect their water, their land. And it's really the only thing that the proponents of the water compact have is this fear from the Salish Kootenai that they're going to file 10,000 claims, you're right, across Montana basically for the water. But there's some precedent that is concerning. The judges have made decisions that, because they have the right to fish, they ought to own the water. But there's also a lot that go the other direction. And in Idaho, they tried that over there. The reservation filed all these claims, and they were successful only on a very few, a handful of them, and lost thousands of others. So it could go both ways. Bottom line is we need to stand up and fight it.
Okay, now Ken, here's my question. Let's say the compact is passed, and the worst fears of some irrigators are realized, that they're cut off somehow, or their amount of water is reduced and they can't stay in business, and so they file a lawsuit. All right, will the actions of whoever owns the water at that point, will that action be allowed to continue until that particular lawsuit has been exhausted, or is it possible to get a stay and require whoever is in charge of the water to bring it back to its former level, so that at least these folks can stay in business, so that they don't take 10, 20 years, run out of money, and go out of business anyway?
Yeah, great point, Peter. And I think the only answer to that is it depends on the judge that it's filed in front of, to whether they put a stay on it and let it continue on as it had for thousands of years.
No, because as we all know, and anything to do with lawsuits, the Mountain Water lawsuit here in Missoula could take years to decide. So,
absolutely correct.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have another caller on the line. Let's, Catherine, you are on with Ken Miller. Go ahead.
Good morning. I was just thinking about this morning. Since real estate transactions, there are a lot of different levels of rights that are tied to a piece of land, like, besides water, there's timber, there's resource rights, minerals, and oil, and gas, and et cetera. If the compact passes, would this create a precedent for legal claim of the tribes, the federal government via the tribes, to these other kinds of rights?
Catherine, I think you're definitely onto something. I think that is a possibility. And it's another part of, we got to pass the bill to find out what's going to happen. And that just scares me to death. That where is this going to end? Where are we going to draw the line and say, this needs to be for all of Montanans, not just something the federal government's going to take over for a select few.
The other little question that I have is, the EPA has said now that they are planning on, or they have written that they're planning on claiming the federal rights to all water. They took out the navigable waterways, and so how is that going to intersect with this too?
Well, I think it strengthens their argument. I think this is just the camel's nose under the tent. If they get the water rights through this compact, then they can continue on across the nation and get control of all our water. And so, if they decide for the good of all Americans, California should have water, then guess where our water's going to go?
Well, if I may just interject here for just a second. We're up against a break, but and Catherine, I want you to hang on the line for a second. I'm going to tell you a story that is on the Associated Press this morning that comes out of New Mexico, and it involves exactly what Catherine and Ken are intimating about water being taken from one part of the country and sent to another part of the country because the need is greater down there than what they have where the water actually originates. So we're going to come right back with more in just a moment. And we're back on Talkback. 721-1290 is the number. John King, I'm Peter Christian. Joining us on the phone is Ken Miller, a former legislator and gubernatorial candidate. We're visiting with Ken today about a rather scathing editorial. It's been in several papers across the state regarding the Water Compact. Catherine's also joining us. I found this news story. I'm going to read this to our listeners. And I would like both of you to comment. Ken, maybe you first. It says this comes out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. I know. A pipeline project intended to bring billions of gallons of water each year to a drought-stricken section of eastern New Mexico represents a lifeline to parched communities. The lifeline, however, may not actually reach the region for more than a decade before wells dry up. And officials say some areas don't have that long before the wells do dry up. The slow pace of construction underscores the challenges that many states are facing. During the widespread drought, officials are struggling to finish large-scale projects while populations are growing, drinking water resources are dwindling, and federal dollars are diminishing. The federal government is responsible for paying about $3 billion to complete several rural water projects in the West. The amounts represent just a fraction of the more than $600 billion needed to address the nation's needs over the next 20 years. So, Ken, you first. How does that strike you with what Catherine just brought up?
Well, Peter, I think you have hit on the big question of so many of us is why is so much money being spent to push this water compact through? I mean, I get mailers, slick mailers in the mail, on a weekly basis. We're hit with all these radio ads. None of that was needed in the other compact agreements, but they're spending millions and millions of dollars on high-priced lobbyists to push this through. Why? Because there's big money behind it. And that threat of taking our water, and it wouldn't have to just be our water, but it could be our power as well. If you control the water and the generation of it, suddenly we're shipping our electricity down to California and competing with them for those prices. They could easily build a pipeline down there. Heck, with oil going across the nation, now we're piping our water across. You can call it alarmist if you want, but I think we have a lot of reason to be alarmed, and somebody sees something to be spending this kind of money to push this compact through.
Well, what is the reason? I mean, I'll be honest, I think a lot of people are listening to you right now and thinking, this is borderline fear-mongering. Because the bill doesn't say anything about shipping water out of state, doesn't say anything about Arizona getting water. So how do you make that leap?
Well, that's the part of the problem is there's a lot of things it doesn't say. And any time the legislature tries to amend it to protect us from some of those kinds of things, no, absolutely not. We cannot. This is an agreed compact. We cannot amend it.
Yeah, and the mantra is it took us 10 years to put this together. Don't mess with it.
Yep. No amendment whatsoever. Well, right off the bat, it says that it goes to an effect on passage and approval. Well, a treaty, a compact like this has to go to Congress to be ratified, and they won't even allow an amendment on there to clarify that issue.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Well, I was just going to interject something here. Legally speaking, doesn't it create any compact or any contract or any agreement creates a legal precedent for the next compact or contract or agreement? And so when you've already adjudicated this water compact in favor of putting the federal government via the tribes in as the first holders of the water, that kind of creates an opening for other rights to be come under contention, I guess, other property rights.
All right. Thanks, Catherine. Appreciate the call. So go ahead. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, well said, and you know, and it just keeps coming back to why can't the legislature amend it? I mean, Senator Janet Taylor tried to amend it to where there would be financial oversight so that we could audit how the money's being spent. Nope, can't do that. I mean, the whole thing is so bizarre. But bottom line is, if you're giving control of the federal government, then that possibility of sending water to California, Arizona, New Mexico, wherever, very much is in the bill.
Yeah, and the assumption right now, at least the assumption that I get, is that it's a done deal. Don't worry about it. We can have hearings, but we know it's going to pass. It's got to pass. The governor wants it. Attorney General wants it. All the big people, all the big boys and girls know what's best, and so just don't worry. It's going to be great. So we'll come back and talk more about it. Ken Miller staying with us. We have Craig and Gloria who are waiting on the line to visit, and we'll come right back. You can also make your comments known on our Facebook page. We'll be happy to share those as well. Hey, we're talk back for Monday. 721-1290 is our number, but all three lines are full, but you can still get your comments on our Facebook page. Joining us on the phone is Ken Miller, and we're talking about the CSKT Water Compact. Ken has some deep reservations about what's going on with that compact, and let's get some more of our callers on. Craig, you are on with Ken. Go ahead.
Hey, I just want to say I love that Catherine. She is such an asset to your show. That's one bright lady.
Very sharp lady, you bet.
Yeah, it always makes me feel small.
Yeah.
But so nonetheless, it's just one more step towards our country being totally socialistic, you know. They got us by the gonads, and we're going downhill fast.
All right, Craig.
And they're probably going to have to pass this nuclear agreement with Iran before we know what's in that, too.
Well, we'll see.
All right, 10-4.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate that. And the line is open. That leaves us with Gloria. Hi, Gloria.
Good morning, gentlemen. And thank you, Ken, for coming out with all this information. I really appreciate it. And I had a bad experience with the Missoulian, too. They gave me the runaround and would not publish a letter that I had done some research on the water compact that traces to a group called Mercury that Denny Rehberg is a co-chair of, and it goes all the way to Washington, D.C., where money is being paid to the tribe. I guess they are doing all the publicity. And this group, Mercury, is connected with Omnicom. And even though I had all the information correct, the Missoulian would not print it. But I did get the Great Falls Tribune and Western Ag to print it. I further wrote a letter to our Attorney General, who is missing in action. I don't even think he really fully realizes what's going on unless he is going along with our governor.
Well, he has stated that he does favor the compact, so he has stated that, yeah.
Yes, I think some of the lawyers in his department have been spokespeople. I don't know that he doesn't give logical reasons. But anyways, I wrote him two letters. One I sent by restricted mail requesting his signature, and of course that's probably highly unlikely. And so I sent a letter, an open letter, out asking him, to give just reasons for supporting this compact. I have not heard back from his office at all, and not even someone representing him from his office. So everything that Ken says is right, and we are organizing a bus with people from Kalispell to go up to the hearing on April 11th. It will leave Missoula at 6:30. If anyone wants to go up and testify and support our opposition to this bill, we would welcome you to come along.
Now, is it April 11th or April 4th?
April 11th.
Okay.
They're allowing us to have it on a Saturday because when we had the initial hearing in the Senate committee, they made it at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday, and it was so hard to get there, and it was at great sacrifice. People in Kalispell left around midnight, and they really don't care. They made it difficult just so that they could get it passed through the Senate. But the House is wants to make sure that all of us get an opportunity to testify, and so they are having a special session on a Saturday morning, and we'll be leaving at 6:30. I believe the hearing is at 10. So we welcome anybody that is willing to testify to oppose this bill, and we have some real heroes out there fighting for us, and I will say Ken Miller is my hero. I wish he would have been our governor.
Gloria?
So I've said all I can say, and Ken can add to it. All right. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
For the call. So, Ken, what do you say?
Well, thank you, Gloria. I appreciate those nice words. But, you had mentioned about how people are saying, well, the fix is in, there's no reason to fight it. And I'm sorry, I'm just not going to accept that. There is that feeling out there, but I still believe that we live in a country of we the people, that the big dogs coming in and trying to dictate to us what's going to happen here in the state of Montana is just not acceptable. And so that Gloria's right, the hearing's on the 11th at 10, and we just need to pack it. We need to let the legislators know that their careers as legislators are in jeopardy if they pass something that's this damaging to the state of Montana, because that is what happened to the water compact. There were a lot of political careers that were at a minimum put on hold, and many destroyed permanently because of passage of that.
I mean, the electrical dereregulation. Yeah.
I'm sorry, the electrical.
Go ahead, John.
Now, Ken, when you're out there being a hero, what color spandex do you like to wear? Is it you more of blue, red, kind of mix them together?
I'm not going to go there, John.
All right. Let's get Alan on the line. Alan, you're on with Ken Miller. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning.
It appears to me from reading the compact that it violates the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. It also has potential for violating the Fourth Amendment from taking, and it also might violate Article 1, Section 10, where it says, no state shall enter into treaties. So what is the way they're getting around Article 1 of the Hellgate Treaty? Article 1 says that the Confederated Tribes of Indians hereby cede, relinquish, and convey to the United States all their right, title, and interest in and to the country occupied or claimed by them, bounded, and described as follows to wit. And I won't read that. How are they getting around Article 1?
I'll tell you what, Ken, if you'll hang on to that answer for just a second, Alan, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for the call. We'll have Ken answer that. Take a quick break. Tim is also on the line. We have one line open for you. It's 721-1290. I definitely want to get Ken's reaction to Alan's question. We'll be right back. We're back on Talkback. It is Monday. Ken Miller's our guest, speaking with us from Laurel, from his home in Laurel, and talking about the CSKT Water Compact and his opposition to it. Now, Alan just had some interesting questions about some constitutional arguments against the compact. So if you could address those, Ken.
Well, Alan, I think the answer to your question is that they're doing it with blinders on. There's no way you can read the federal Constitution or the state Constitution and come up with a conclusion that it's constitutional, and yet the Attorney General has made a statement that he believes that it is. Well, like I point out to people, he is one man's opinion, and we all have the same capability of reading the constitutions, and in my opinion, it's blatantly unconstitutional. So
can you explain
the only
how?
way they can be getting around it? Well, the three examples that Alan used on the federal Constitution, and then the one on the state Constitution, I believe it's Article 9. I'm going by memory here.
Here, I'll read it. Actually, we have a Facebook post from one of our listeners that brought it up. I'll read the post as well. This is from Claire. She says, the proponents of this compact just seem to ignore that the compact violates the Montana Constitution. Or their answers are just, no, it doesn't. Next question. Article 1 talks about the lands owned or held by the Indians or tribes. Article 9, Section 3 deals with water, which is under Montana control and for the use of the people of Montana. So why or why not is the compact unconstitutional? So since she brought it up, I'll read part of Section 3. So Article 9, Section 3, the subheading in the Constitution, the Montana State Constitution, is water rights. And Section 3 of Section 3, well, I'll just read the whole thing. It's not that long. All existing rights to the use of any waters for any useful or beneficial purposes are hereby recognized and confirmed. The use of all water that is now or may hereafter be appropriated for sale, rent, distribution, or other beneficial use, the right-of-way over the lands of others for ditches, drains, flumes, canals, and aqueducts necessarily used in connection therewith, and the sites for reservoirs necessary for collecting and storing water shall be held to be a public use. All surface, underground, flood, and atmospheric waters within the boundaries of the state are the property of the state for the use of its people and are subject to appropriation for beneficial uses as provided by law. The legislature shall provide for the administration, control, and regulation of water rights and shall establish a system of centralized records in addition to the present system of local records. Peter?
Okay, now I have my hand raised because here is what I have heard trumps the Montana Constitution, okay? And I believe because of the supremacy clause that anything in the federal Constitution trumps anything in a state constitution. And from what I understand, almost equal in power to the U.S. Constitution are the treaties that the U.S. makes with various Native American tribes. And so I think the argument is that the Treaty of 1855 trumps, and because of the supremacy, and again, I may be completely off base here, but that treaty and what it says trumps what the new Montana Constitution, which was created back in the 1970s, says about water. So am I wrong or not, Ken?
Well, that is what some of the proponents of 262 states, but I would argue several things. But in that treaty, first of all, several parts of that treaty have already been broken. So how do you have a partial treaty still in effect? But in that treaty, it also states exactly what Alan read, in that, or I think it was Alan, that it gives up, by signing this treaty, the reservation gives up all these rights outside of the reservation area. Well, this compact now goes outside the reservation and takes water. So it's in conflict with that treaty, a treaty that's already been, broken. And it could be bottom line, it all needs to be interpreted by the courts. So let's do that by not passing the treaty if need be.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the Hellgate Treaty was broken on both ends. I mean, they're not in the Bitterroot anymore for a reason.
I'm sorry.
I mean, they were in the Bitterroot, I believe, when the Hellgate Treaty was signed.
That's their ancestral home.
Then they got pushed off and moved up north.
Right.
I mean, so what my case is, it's not like that one side's the only one breaking the treaty on this issue. But furthermore, it seems to me when you go to Section 3 of the Montana Constitution, it says that the legislature shall provide for the administration. If the legislature wants to provide that administration is the CSKT, why is that a problem? That seems like a power afforded it by the Montana Constitution.
If indeed it's them and they don't give up the rights of the water, then I would agree with that. But they're giving up the rights of the water in trust to the federal government on reservation and off reservation, and that's where we start breaking the Constitution, or one of the many areas that I believe we're breaking the Constitution.
Okay, let's get another caller on here. Tim, thanks for holding. You're on with Ken Miller. Go ahead.
Well, great, thanks a lot. I've been wondering why Montana FWP has been silent on the entire water compact thing, considering the impact it'll have on their agency. And talking to my friends at FWP, I've now found out that when the tribe gets the compact passed, they will only be junior to the state. And when stream flows become low, they'll be able to shut down all the irrigation on those rivers. And they'll be able to stop flood irrigation also because of the chemicals and the pesticides they put on those fields. So the ranchers have a huge problem now, and FWP has been silent through this whole thing, and I can't understand why.
All right, so thanks for the call, Tim. Any idea on that, Ken?
FWP, just over Fish, Wildlife, and Parks.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Well, it brings up some good points. They will have control. The federal government will have control of stream flows, and if they decide that either to power, power plants that send in the electricity to California, or enough for the fisheries that they want, then farmers, ranchers, you're the first to go. And we've seen that play out in California as well, where now fertile ground is laying dormant and not being allowed to farm.
Sure. We're up against a break, Ken. Hang on. So this is a 60-second timeout. Last one of the show. And Emmett, we're going to get you on right after that 60-second timeout. We also have one line open and about 8 minutes left in the program. So you have a comment, give us a call at 721-1290. This is Talkback. 721-1290 is our number, 1-800-568-5309. Ken Miller from Laurel joining us, former legislator and gubernatorial candidate on the Republican ticket during the last election. And let's get Emmett. Emmett, thank you for holding. You're on. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you for taking my call. Yeah, everyone knows, from from Talkback and meeting me, that I'm very opinionated and passionate on a lot of things, just about everything. Now, these comments or question that I might make a lot of people angry, but the water compact and water rights issues are the one thing that I am not passionate about, and I have a serious question, a big one. Why should I, as an American citizen, be passionate and boiling mad, no pun intended, about the water rights issue? I've always thought, well, as long as my water is clean from my tap and it doesn't have parasites, I don't care who owns it or why they own it, because it's not infringing on my personal liberties or taking my religious rights away. Those are what I'm personally, fumed about taking my religious liberties away, my rights away. But as long as the water, comes out of my tap and is clean, I don't care who owns it. And so, just why should I, no pun intended, be boiling mad about the water compact issue?
Tell you what, let's let him answer that. So, Ken, Emmett's question is, why should I care about this?
Well, you should care what it's going to cost. I'm not going to claim that it's going to stop flowing, although you can maybe make that connection. But the cost of what it's going to cost you to flow out of that faucet for your drinking is going to affect you. It could also, now you're getting local produce, you're getting flathead cherries, the list goes on by living in that area of the United States, and that all could seriously be at jeopardy should this compact go through as written. The other thing that I'd like to touch on real quick is that your listeners should be starting to get a feel for how big this is and how complex. We're just touching the surface. There is so much more to it, and that is what's, that in itself is reason enough for every legislator to vote against it. And it's so ironic, too, that the Democrats are solidly in support of it. They're supposed to, they claim to be the party of the little people and against big government and big business. This compact is about big companies, big business, big government.
Democrats are supposed to be against big government? I think they lost that memo about 200 years ago.
Yeah, good point. I'm glad you clarified that. Big business, big money, the big boys controlling.
Right. All right. Let's move on. JR, you are on with Ken. Go ahead.
Hi. You were talking about why Attorney Tim Fox is for this compact. Actually, I don't think he's read it. He has an attorney in his office by the name of Jay Weiner, who is pretty much, him and Chris Tweeten are the architects of this compact going back a few years. They're the ones that wrote it. And this Jay Weiner is a former lawyer for a big law firm that specializes in Indian rights, Indian tribal rights. And Fox hired him on to the Attorney General's office. So I think he's getting all of his information from the guy that wrote the compact, which is, what's he going to say? It's terrible.
Okay. Well, thanks, JR. Appreciate the call. So what do you think, Ken?
Well, again, on the deregulation, electrical deregulation, after the fact, we saw a tremendous amount of corruption that was involved in it because there was so much money. Now, I'm not going to say that that's absolutely the case here on the water compact, but those concerns are out there when there's that much money, big lobbyists pushing it through, so many attorneys hired, when none of that was needed on any of the other reservation compacts. Something is really out of whack here.
Okay, let's get back to the phones, and let's see. This is Eric. Eric, you're on with Ken Miller. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the water is being taken by the Missoula government, and this water compact, is it being taken by the federal government? Who's benefiting from this the most? That's my question. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So is it the federal government that stands at the end of the line saying we're going to control everything, Ken?
That's exactly right. And in my opinion, they're using the ponds in this whole scheme is the reservation. The Indian people up there are being used as pawns by the federal government, by big business to get control of the water. And back to that way, if they want to take care of the population, the large populations on the coast, they can do so. They have control of the water to send it to wherever.
All right, let's get Jeff on the line. Jeff, you are on with Ken Miller. Please go ahead.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
So, from what I'm gathering from listening about the water compact this whole time is that the federal government is trying to take control over all the lakes, rivers, streams, and stuff, all the natural water. Is that correct?
Is that what you're hearing, Ken?
That's correct, and underground. So even your wells in this one is being controlled.
So even private wells would be under federal control in a sense?
That's correct.
Wow, I don't understand why people would want to support it. I mean, why does someone have to own all the natural water in the area? That just seems silly. So, well, that was really all I wanted to know.
Okay.
So thank you
I will say, if you talk
Thanks,
to
Jeff.
people, on the affirmative side for the CSKT treaty, they will deny these claims that Ken Miller's making. Just to give you a little bit of perspective here.
Ken, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Yep, and they do, and which is not unusual for a political issue like this.
Okay.
There's always
Ken, I hate to do this to you. We're like less than a minute. So before we're done, could you tell us when and where this next hearing is going to be, and what you would like people to do?
Yep, absolutely. Write your legislators. Show up on April 11th in Helena at 10 a.m. and let your opposition be known. But the biggest, write, call. It's in the hands of the House right now, and we need to let them know that we don't want this to be passed.
All right. Hey, we're out of time, Ken. Thank you so much, and best of luck to you.
Well, thank you. It's great being on with you this morning.
We'll see you tomorrow on Talkback.